For centuries, there was a place on nautical charts marked not with a name, but with a warning. Just a jagged stretch of water off Alaska's remote southeastern coast, circled in red ink by cartographers who believed in things they couldn't explain. Locals called it Serpent Point, not because of what was seen, but because of what was felt. Ask any seasoned fisherman over the age of 60, and they'd all tell you the same thing. Stay clear of that place. Boy, the water doesn't breathe right there. It wasn't superstition. It was experience. Boats drifted when they shouldn't have. Engines failed without cause. Whales, normally graceful and silent giants of the deep, cried out in long, painful songs near the area, then vanished for weeks at a time, sonar useless. Compasses spun like they were possessed. And once, in 1972, a Coast Guard chopper on patrol went down trying to investigate an oil slick spotted from the air. No wreckage was ever found, just the black box. Recovered on the shore 4 months later, half melted and wrapped in barnacle coat. Fishing line. That stretch of water earned a reputation, not cursed, not haunted, worse, alive. But like most legends, the story dulled with time. The warnings turned into campfire tales, jokes shared over cold beer and cracked radios. 100 years since the last true sighting, and people forgot, except for one, Dr. Hannah Elwood. She wasn't a sailor, not a fisherman, not a superstitious local. She was a marine biologist with a doctorate from MIT and a folder full of classified sonar anomalies recorded by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. 3 months ago, satellites picked up something unusual at the coordinates just east of Serpent Point, tremors, thermal spikes, and a sonar return from over 8,000 feet below the surface. Something massive and moving. The pattern repeated every 13 days and then stopped, except for one final spike. On the morning of April 4th, it was a seismic pulse, so powerful, it triggered wave buoys in Japan. But no quake was recorded, no landslide, no tectonic activity, just movement, rhythmic, deliberate. It matched something else in Dr. Elwood's archives, an old log from a 1923 whaling ship that recorded the same coordinates, the same pulse, and the same sound. The crew never returned. Their final entry, the deep groans. The stars do not match. We see the pillars now. Most dismissed it as madness. But Hannah, she saw a pattern, a cycle. Every century, something stirred below the waves at Serpent Point, and she believed it was due to rise again. Marine biologist Dr. Hannah Elwood had made a name for herself in controversial waters. Not literally, not until now. She'd published papers on the acoustic anomalies in the Mariana Trench. She'd tracked the migratory patterns of giant squid, using deep ocean echolocation signatures. She'd even debated skeptics on live television about the possibility of undiscovered megafauna living in extreme pressure zones. But this was different. This wasn't theory. This was data. Hard repeating. Verified by NOAA satellites and rejected by government oceanographers with unusually fast responses. Hannah had learned long ago, when the silence from official channels was that loud, it meant something was being buried, and Serpent Point had a body count behind its name. That's what drove her to seek private funding. No university would touch it. So she went underground, pitching her findings to an eccentric biotech investor with a taste for fringe science. He didn't care if it was real. He cared if it looked real on camera. So he gave her one condition: bring back something they can't ignore. And so, the Arcadia was launched, an aging deep-sea research vessel. Once used by Canadian fisheries, now modified with reinforced sub-bottom sonar arrays, thermal imaging buoys, and a makeshift drone bay welded into the lower hull, small, cramped, but seaworthy. The crew was hand-picked, each with their own reasons for saying yes, and none of them quite the same. Marcus Dray, a former Navy diver with a 1,000-yard stare and a body covered in healed shrapnel scars, hadn't touched salt water in 5 years. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words came out sharp, like they were used to cutting through noise. He didn't believe in monsters, but he did believe in classified weapons tests, and this felt a little too familiar. Then there was Tommy Key, the sonar tech, young, brilliant, jittery, with ADHD energy and a habit of recording voice memos when he thought no one was listening. He called himself a pattern chaser, and he had found something in the ocean maps from the last 30 years. Gaps, repeated dead zones where sonar failed, right near Serpent Point, spaced almost geometrically, like the corners of something enormous. He didn't know what, but he had a name for it: the Hollow Crown. Next came Leela Rowe, hired as a documentary filmmaker, but not a believer. To her, this was a story, a career-defining one, and if she caught something unexplained on camera, she'd own the footage. She'd already signed an exclusive deal with a streaming platform. Monster or not, she was here for the climax. Finally, there was Captain Elias Red Garza, grizzled, broad, mute, half the time, profane the other. A local Alaskan who'd once been caught in a storm near Serpent Point and lived to tell about it, though he rarely did. His fishing boat, the Rook, had come back with hull damage no one could explain, his crew silent. And one of them vanished 3 weeks later, leaving only his boots in the harbor. People said Red walked with a limp. Now, because of what happened at sea, but Hannah noticed something else. He limped when the tide changed. They left port on a moonless night. No ceremony, no press, just a quiet hum of engines as the Arcadia moved into open water. For the first 30 miles, everything was smooth, calm seas, light wind, even a few humpbacks breaching in the distance. But after they crossed into the uncharted zone, just a few miles shy of Serpent Point, things started changing. The wind died. The gulls stopped following, and the temperature dropped 7 degrees in under a minute. Inside the control room, Tommy's sonar arrays began glitching. Not failing, misbehaving, getting bounced back, he muttered, tapping the screen. But it's repeating. He adjusted the frequency and froze. The signal was echoing in a pattern. 3 tones. Pause. 3 tones. Longer pause, like a code. Could be a malfunction, he said, but his voice wavered. Or not. Marcus stood behind him, arms crossed. That's not sonar, that's a ping. Something's answering us. Meanwhile, Hannah was watching the thermal imaging panel. It showed something beneath the boat. Not a shape, a void, a perfectly symmetrical absence of heat, roughly 800 meters wide. But it wasn't rising. It wasn't moving. It was just waiting. Leela started filming. Fog began rolling across the water. Not drifting, but rising, like steam from a cracked surface. Then Captain Red, silent until now, muttered his first words of the trip. It's awake. Day 2. 3:44 a.m. The crew hadn't slept. The deeper they went, the heavier the silence became. No waves slapped against the hull. No wind whistled through the antennas. Even the sea itself seemed to hold its breath. They reached what the charts called the perimeter. No formal name, just a jagged circle marked with missing data, an area where compasses often spun and sonar readings failed. The water turned black, not just in color, but in presence. It drank in the ship's lights, absorbing beams that should have pierced meters downward. Now, the surface rippled like oil over tar, and when Tommy dropped the ROV, it vanished in 3 feet. Visibility's gone, he muttered. Recalibrate the ballast cam, Hannah instructed. I did, twice. The feeds, showing ... static. But it wasn't normal static. The screen didn't fuzz, it twitched. Shapes blinked through frames. Vertical lines, disjointed echoes of light, like old film burned mid-reel. Leela kept filming anyway, determined to capture everything, but her camera kept skipping. Frames dropped, audio distorted. She replayed a clip, and saw something she didn't record. A flash of what looked like an eye, wide and gray, staring upward. She paused it. Frame by frame, gone. Nothing there. Optical glitch, she told herself. Corrupted buffer? But her voice lacked conviction. On deck, Red gripped the wheel tightly, frowning. We're drifting. That's not possible, Marcus snapped. Engines are idle, no current this deep. But instruments didn't lie. The Arcadia was moving, slowly, not with the waves against them, south by southeast, at a crawl, like a tug, from something beneath. Red shut off all thrusters. Still, they drifted, like we're on ice, Tommy whispered. Hannah ordered. A data sweep. Run a full LiDAR burst. I want bottom mapping. Tommy tapped furiously. Nothing then. A single ping came through. Something down there big dot stationary. Double quotes. Bigger than a whale, he muttered. Much bigger. Could it be seafloor topography? Hannah asked. No. It's warm, organic, like a heartbeat. The temperature inside the Arcadia dropped by 5 degrees. Condensation formed on the windows, and for the first time, they all noticed it. Every metal surface on the ship was sweating. Not rust, not rain, condensation, as if the ship had been pulled into a colder, pressurized chamber, not outside, but inside something. Hannah moved to the deck. The black water below looked thicker now. Less like liquid, more like a living fluid, one that absorbed not just light, but thought. She stared into it and felt something staring back. Marcus, she called. Drop the hydrophone. He did. 30 seconds of silence. Then, sound. A hum. Deep, resonant. It came from below, not mechanical. Not whale song. Patterned. Like breathing. Slow, rhythmic, cavernous. Then it changed, as if reacting to the ship's presence. The frequency spiked. Layla screamed from below deck. The crew ran. She pointed to her laptop. The screen frozen on. A single frame captured from the feed, a still image. Pulled from a corrupted stream, it showed the Arcadia, from above, perfectly centered in the frame, as if someone, or something was watching them, from the sky. No, from the water. Because beneath the Arcadia was a shadow, the faint outline of a spiral, not a trench, not a reef, a structure, circular, massive like a coiled body. Jesus, Tommy whispered. It's not under us. It is us. We're inside it. The ship shuddered. Once then, again, like a yawn from something impossibly large. We need to go, Marcus said firmly. But Hannah hesitated. She looked at the coordinates, then at the humming. HYDROPHONE. At the LiDAR map. They weren't just drifting, they were being pulled into position. Day 2, 5:12 a.m. The Arcadia groaned with every shift of pressure. Metal sang in a low, eerie pitch. The humming hadn't stopped. If anything, it seemed to pulse through the hull now, like the vessel had synced with a distant, living doctor. Hannah Elwood made the call. They sent down the submersible drone, equipped with sonar, high-lumen floodlights, and a stabilized 4K camera, tethered by a reinforced fiber optic line. Marcus watched the monitors descend at 2 meters per second. The drone slipped beneath the black surface, vanishing from sight almost instantly. Layla adjusted the feed, audio rolling, lenses adjusting focus as the drone moved downward. 50 meters, nothing but murk. 100 meters. Still, nothing. 200. Then shapes began to emerge. Massive, man-made stone pillars, arranged in a circular grid, like monoliths toppled by time and pressure. Some were cracked, others shattered completely, as if something enormous had clawed them apart. Symbols etched into the surface's spirals. Curves and impossible geometries glowed faintly with bioluminescent algae, dancing in the currents like they were alive. Holy hell, Hannah whispered. This isn't natural. This looks ancient, Leela added, filming the screen. Not like Atlantis legends. This looks older. Drone hovered near one column. Tommy zoomed in. Claw marks. Long, jagged deep into the stone. Something attacked this, Marcus muttered. Recently. Why do you say that? Hannah asked. Because the scratches are clean. No coral regrowth. No calcification, maybe. A month old. Then, just beyond the columns, movement. A flash, coiled. Silken and massive, like a thick rope sliding behind one of the ruined towers. Rewind that. Hannah ordered. Tommy froze the frame, enhanced a scale. The texture was wet, ridged, like something reptilian, but far too large, at least 10 meters thick, and it had just slithered out of frame. Marcus leaned closer to the monitor. That's not part of the ruins. Another flickered. Then, the eye. It stared into the lens like it had been waiting. Yellow, vertical slit pupil, surrounded by scaled flesh, rippling with each current, the size of a car door, silent, motionless. SENTIENT. Back it up, Marcus whispered, but before Tommy could react, the image shook violently, then blackout. No video, no audio, just the spinning icon of a dead connection. Leela gasped. We lost the drone. Tommy checked. Power's gone. Cable's fine, but it's not sending. It's like it was cut off. The screen turned to static, but not pure noise. Every few seconds, a single frame flashed, a flicker of stone, the shimmer of something coiling, then a flash of teeth, rows of them, not in a mouth, but circling the eye like natural armor. Then darkness again. On deck, the humming rose. The water around the Arcadia bubbled, gently at first, then, more violently, and then, silence. Red checked the instruments. The Arcadia had stopped moving, held in place. No engines, no current, just suspended. Marcus looked overboard and saw something truly impossible. The reflection of the Arcadia was gone. In its place, a different shape, circular, ribbed, breathing. A soft glow pulsed from beneath the ship. Tommy whispered, "It's not a trench, not a structure." "What is it then?" Leela asked. He looked up, pale. A body. Day 2. 6:03 a.m. The ocean turned against them. 1 hour ago. The waters had been still, so calm that even seabirds floated lazily over the deck. Now, 20-foot waves battered the Arcadia like it was a toy raft. The ship creaked with every crash. Spray blinded their vision. The sky above had turned the color of old bruises, purple, gray, green, as if the storm wasn't from the earth. But beneath it, lightning forked in perfect silence. Each flash painted ghostly lines across the surface of the sea, like it was revealing the scars of something massive hiding just under the waves. Captain Garza gripped the wheel with white-knuckled hands. He'd faced typhoons, ice storms, rogue currents, but nothing like this. He shouted over the roar of water. "I can't steer. Compass is dead." Tommy checked the GPS again. "No way," he whispered. "What?" Hannah demanded. "It says we're in 3 places at once. Look." He pointed at the 3 overlapping coordinates blinking on screen. 57.423 N, 153.021 W, near Kodiak, 45.990 N, 130.872 W, hundreds of miles south, and 1, in the Mariana Trench. "That's impossible," Leela breathed. "We haven't moved." "No," Hannah whispered. "Time has. Space has. It's distorting the sea around us, the creature. It's not just physical. It's warping physics. Reality." Marcus staggered outside onto the deck, gripping the rail as the Arcadia pitched and rolled. Then everything stopped. Total silence. The wind died. The waves froze in mid-crest, not breaking, not falling, just suspended, as if the entire ocean had taken a breath and refused to exhale. And from the starboard side, it rose. At first, they thought it was a mountain, then a swell, then they saw the fin, enormous, black, ridged with serrated edges, like broken glass, barnacle-covered and glistening in moonlight that hadn't been there a second before. It sliced through the sky, 50 feet high, and dragged the sea upward with it. Old rusted harpoons jutted from its surface. Some were snapped like toothpicks. Others were still lodged deep in the flesh. One of them, dated with World War II era markings. The fin kept rising, then stopped, and turned, slowly rotating toward them like an eye adjusting focus. Captain Garza backed away from the helm lips, trembling. That harpoon there? It's the same one I saw in '88. You've been here before, Hannah said. You never told us what you saw. Garza didn't answer. He just stared at the thing in front of them like it was a memory made flesh. Below deck, alarms blared, structural stress increasing. Tommy read off the screen. Hull integrity dropping. But we're not hitting anything. We're not sinking. No, Hannah said. It's pulling us, slowly upward. They looked outside again, and realized something more terrifying than the creature itself. The sea level was rising, but not like a tide dot, vertically dot like the Arcadia, and the water it sat in was being lifted by some unseen force. We're riding on it, Marcus said. This thing, it's beneath us, Layla whispered. Then what the hell is that fin in front of us? Another wave hit. Or rather, folded. The ocean bent, like fabric drawn into a knot. Water spun around the ship, clockwise, swirling with glowing plankton and fragments of stone from the seafloor, and in the very center, below the Arcadia, something opened a circular chasm, not black-violet, pulsing, breathing, and they could hear it now. A heartbeat, slow, massive, alive. Then, one by one, the Arcadia's systems shut off. First the sonar, then lights, then communications, until the only light remaining was the phosphorescent glow rising from the depths. Hannah looked over the side and saw a jaw, not open, not attacking, just waiting. The Arcadia creaked like a matchstick bending in steam. The fin in front of them dropped suddenly, slamming into the water, sending up a geyser that rose like a black tower. The wake it left didn't ripple outward. It spiraled inward, toward the ship. Tommy screamed. It's sucking us down. Engines full reverse. Hannah yelled. Garza hit the ignition. Nothing. Leela dropped to her knees, filming the sky as the clouds above tore in a spiral, mirroring the sea below. Marcus looked into the chasm one last time, and something looked back. It surfaced, not entirely. Just enough to kill any doubt that what they faced was biological. It wasn't a myth, it wasn't a whale, or a squid, or some unnamed prehistoric leviathan. It was something older than any classification, a creature, shaped by time, not evolution, built for a world before language. The scales were the size of rooftops, jagged and scarred, mottled with barnacles, shipwreck debris, and what looked like bones caught in its ridges. Glowing veins pulsed beneath. Its armor, pale, green, and blue, flickering like dying stars under murky glass. Bioluminescence crawled along its form, lighting the fog and eerie. Rhythmic waves dot, and then it opened its mouth, a maw wider than the Arcadia itself. No teeth, only rows of cartilage ridges spiraling inward, like a throat that didn't chew, just consumed. The pressure dropped. Air thinned. The sea around them hissed and foamed, as if boiling but cold. Tommy screamed, "We need to move." He grabbed the console to re-engage thrusters, but the controls were dead, useless, frozen. Sparks flickered from the panel. The ship tilted, violently for 5 degrees. Everyone was thrown to the side. Leela's camera slid off the railing, tumbling into the chasm below. She dove after it, instinctively, but Marcus caught her, pulling her back just before the edge. The camera vanished into the light. They all watched it disappear into that glowing spiral. No splash, no ripple, just gone. Then a snap. The deck lights burst, one after another. Glass shards rained down like ice, The Arcadia groaned as if it were being gripped. Suddenly, a scream. Marcus. A tentacle. No, not a tentacle. A tendril, black and veined with blue light, had reached up from the water and wrapped around his leg, yanking him backward. He shouted, trying to dig his fingers into the wood as he was dragged. Marcus. Hannah lunged forward. Too late. He was ripped overboard. There was no splash, just silence. He didn't surface. He never screamed again. Then, a flash. Captain Garza fired a flare gun. It arced toward the beast's eye, the one from earlier, but the flare didn't hit. It bent in midair, curved unnaturally, like gravity itself had been hijacked, and disappeared into the sky. No, Garza whispered. Even light doesn't behave right around it. Everyone froze, because in that moment, the creature turned its eye on them again. That slit pupil, the size of a lifeboat, studied them like they were insects on a leaf. But it didn't radiate rage or hunger. It radiated something worse. Patience, as if this wasn't the first time, as if it had seen ships like theirs before, many times, and would see many more. Long after they were gone, long after the Arcadia rusted on the sea floor and their bones were dust, it was not malevolent. It was inevitable, Layla whispered. It's letting us see it. It wants us to. Why? Hannah asked. Because it wants to be remembered. The wind returned. Only it wasn't wind. It was a low hum, a subsonic tone that passed through their bones and echoed in their teeth. A resonance. It made their eyes water and their knees buckle. Tommy collapsed to the floor, clutching his head. It's speaking what? Hannah knelt beside him. It's inside my mind. I hear it. It's saying, you were not the first. Then the sky changed, stars twisted, the clouds pulled apart, not like weather, but like fabric tearing, to reveal a deeper layer beneath, a second sky. One that didn't belong to Earth. Hannah stared upward, and in the space beyond the clouds, she saw shapes, other leviathans, bigger, older, moving slowly across the sky like constellations come to life. The beast below, the one surfacing at Serpent Point, was just one of them. A scout, a child. Captain Garza whispered, my grandfather saw this. In 44. He came back with white hair, never spoke again. Why didn't you tell us? Layla asked. I thought he was mad. Now I know he was lucky. Then, stillness again. The creature began to descend, back into the deep. Not fleeing, returning, like it had completed a ritual, or delivered a message, or claimed something, as it vanished. The water around the Arcadia calmed, the glow faded, the wind died, and so did the storm. Daylight broke. Hannah stood at the railing, staring at the flat, calm sea. No sign of Marcus, no sign of the ruins, no sign of the ruins, no sign of the beast. Just the Arcadia, bobbing gently, like nothing had happened. Tommy spoke first. We didn't escape. No, Hannah said. It let us go. The sea was unnaturally still, but beneath, they could feel it, shifting, turning, waiting. Only 3 remained on deck now. Hannah, Leela, Garza. Tommy was catatonic, below, murmuring nonsense in whispers. Marcus was gone. The creature had submerged again. But it hadn't left. They knew it. And they knew they wouldn't survive another pass. Only one option left, Hannah said. She sprinted to the operations bay, fingers trembling as she accessed the sub-drone's detonation module, a tool never intended for defense. It was meant for underwater mining blasts, compact, directional, and devastating in a 300-meter radius. Wait, that thing's still down there, Garza yelled, following her. You want to nuke the whole trench? No, just long enough to stun it. Create a breach in the field, the warping, whatever it is, Hannah replied. Buy us a way out. She brought up the drone's last coordinates, still functional, still drifting, near the ruins. Near it. Outside, the wind screamed again, the water boiling with unseen currents. Garza, I need every light we've got. Pointed down. If it's like a deep predator, it'll come to investigate. You're using the Arcadia as bait. Hannah didn't look up. We're dead anyway if we don't try. Leela helped rewire the deck lights, the last working circuits. With the ship's power nearly gone, they redirected everything into a single glow, a spotlight piercing down into the abyss, and they waited. Nothing then, a pulse. The water under the ship glowed faintly, those veins again, like tendrils of neon ink spreading from the deep. The drone's camera, still online, flickered, and in the feed, something moved, massive, slithering between the ruins, drawn to the light. Closer, closer. Now, Garza whispered. Do it. Hannah hesitated. Just 1 second, because in the feed, it looked back up at them, directly into the camera, into her, and for the first time, she didn't see malice. She saw recognition, like the beast understood exactly what they were about to do. Then she pressed the trigger. The detonation module ignited. Silence. Then boom. The water ruptured beneath them, lifting the Arcadia like a toy in a bathtub. A column of water and shattered light shot skyward, a geyser of glowing fluid and steam. The explosion was muted, but the force was immense. The Arcadia was hurled sideways, smashing into a wave, sails tearing, metal groaning like it would rip apart. All lights went out. Hannah was thrown against the railing, hitting her head. Leela screamed. Garza grabbed the wheel, trying to steady what little control they had. They expected to sink. They expected the creature to rise again, enraged. But instead, stillness. The storm, the impossible, ceaseless vortex that had wrapped around Serpent Point parted. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. Like a doorway in a wall of chaos had opened. A gap. That's our chance, Garza yelled, fighting the rudder. We've got maybe 5 minutes. The Arcadia limped forward, battered and broken. One sail remained, tattered and half-shredded. The emergency engines flickered, then caught just enough thrust. Tommy crawled onto the deck, bleeding from his ears, eyes wide. It's not dead, he whispered. It's wounded. But it remembers you. Layla dragged him below. Garza steered toward the calm. Behind them, a low moan rolled across the ocean. Not from wind, not from the ship, from beneath. A cry of pain or warning. The water steamed, but the sea did not close around them. They pushed through the breach. The compasses returned. GPS synced. Stars reappeared in their proper constellations. The Arcadia broke free. 2 days later, they reached port, barely afloat. 3 crew members gone, every sensor fried, every hard drive corrupted. The footage Layla had captured, glitched, fragmented, useless, except for one frame. A still shot, just before the drone feed cut out. The creature's eye, staring, still, burned into memory. They made it to shore 3 days later. The Arcadia groaned into the harbor like a ghost ship, hull split, sails torn, antennas bent like twisted fingers. Its reflection barely shimmered on the calm morning water, as if the sea itself was done. With them, there was no celebration, no debrief, no recovery, just silence. The data drives were fried, corrupted beyond use. Tommy's sonar files, gone. Leela's footage, static, flickering frames, half showing empty water, half showing shapes that couldn't be explained. Hannah tried to play it once, just once. She saw the eye again, and then the screen burned out. The only tangible thing left from Serpent Point was absence. No Marcus, no ruins, no physical proof that anything had ever been there. Hannah filed her report with NOAA. The next morning she detailed the anomalies, the shifting coordinates, the seismic patterns, the impossible creature, the detonation. 12 hours later, Men in black suits came to her door. They didn't introduce themselves. They just handed her a folder, her own report, heavily redacted. Pages missing. Terminology replaced. Mentions of the creature removed. The word anomaly replaced by instrumental error. They told her not to speak to the press. They said it was for national stability. She never saw them again. Layla. She checked into a private care facility in British Columbia. She hadn't spoken since they docked, not a word. She spent her days staring at aquariums, sometimes humming the pitch the sonar had detected right before the storm. Low, droning, inhuman. Once, a nurse swore she whispered something in her sleep. It's not just beneath, it's beneath the beneath. Captain Garza went back to sea 2 months later. Took a trawler north, said he needed to reclaim the waters. He never returned. The Coast Guard found his vessel adrift, running lights still on. Inside, his logbook contained just 2 final entries. March 12th. The stars don't match here. March 13th. It called my name. Hannah stayed quiet, but she didn't sleep. She filled notebook after notebook with the symbols from the ruins, drawn from memory. Every time she reached the last symbol, her pen would snap, as if something didn't want it finished. She eventually moved inland. No more ocean, but every year, on the anniversary of the Arcadia's return, she receives a package, unmarked, inside a small jar, filled with water, salt water, and always, a single bioluminescent scale, still faintly glowing, back near Serpent Point. The fishermen still avoid the outcrop. You won't find it on most maps anymore. Satellite imagery is inconclusive, always cloudy, always shadowed, but the locals know. And when the fog rolls in thick, that ancient, dense fog that carries the smell of old kelp and rusted metal, they swear their radios pick up something. Not music. Not static. Breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Colossal. As if the sea itself were dreaming. They turn back every time. No questions asked. Because even the skeptics know. Some monsters aren't myths. Some don't need belief to exist. Some are simply patient, waiting, watching, and listening from where no light has ever touched.